My name is Isabella Bella Hartman. I'm 32 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've carried this strange mix of longing and invisibility inside me. The kind of longing that isn't loud, but aches quietly in every corner of your life, whispering that maybe, just maybe, you're not enough. It was a Thursday morning when my life took a sharp, gutting turn. My parents, the two people I had spent my entire life trying to impress, had explicitly forbidden me from attending their 30th wedding anniversary party. I still remember the text like it was tattooed into my brain. Bella, we think it's best if you don't come this time. We love you, but please understand. At first, I thought it was a cruel joke. But as I stared at my phone, the empty gray bubble beside their names made my chest tighten. They weren't joking. They were serious. And in that moment, the weight of every slight, every overlooked birthday, every conversation I was conveniently too busy for, crashed down on me. I remember pacing my small apartment in downtown Chicago, the city alive and vibrant outside my window, while inside, I felt frozen in betrayal. My parents, the very people who had promised to love unconditionally, had chosen to erase me from a milestone of their lives. And then just hours later, my phone lit up with the notification that would make my heart stop. A photo on social media. My sister, Vanessa Hartman, my younger sister by 2 years, had posted a picture of herself and my parents smiling at the anniversary party. The photo captured a perfect, radiant family, my parents beaming, Vanessa laughing, glasses raised. And there I was, nowhere to be seen, erased, invisible, replaced by my sister's carefully curated smile. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I scrolled through the comments. Beautiful family. You all look so happy. Wish I could have been there, Bella. The last one hit me like a knife. Before I could even process, my mind spiraled back to why this could have happened, back to every moment that had built up this quiet resentment. My childhood wasn't a fairy tale. I wasn't the golden child. That role had always belonged to Vanessa. She was brilliant in school, effortlessly charming, and had an uncanny ability to make my parents laugh at the right moment. I was quieter, observant, sensitive, the one who noticed the subtle cracks in our home, the silent tension behind smiles, the things nobody wanted to admit. I'd always been aware of the favoritism. My achievements lauded in small, almost reluctant tones, while Vanessa's were celebrated like festivals. And now, at 32, I still carried the same wound. My voice wasn't valued. My presence wasn't prioritized. My existence sometimes felt optional. I remember one Christmas when I was 10. Vanessa had wanted a horse figurine for her collection. My parents spent the entire afternoon hunting for it, excitedly telling everyone who would listen about the perfect gift for our special daughter. Meanwhile, my own wish, a simple set of watercolor paints, was met with a polite, distracted smile. Maybe next year, Bella, my mom had said. I had stared at the floor, the sting of neglect blooming in my chest, learning even then that love, in my family, came with conditions. And now, years later, the anniversary party was the cruelest echo of that lesson. I called my best friend, Marissa, my lifeline, my anchor in stormy waters. I can't believe this, I whispered into the phone, my voice cracking. They didn't even tell me to my face. Hours later, Vanessa posts that photo like I don't exist. Marissa didn't answer right away, and the silence was suffocating. When she finally spoke, her tone was cautious. Bella, are you sure you want to react? Social media can make everything worse. I could hear the concern threading through her words, but my pride, my wounded heart, refused to wait. I had to know why. And then, in that moment, my gaze fell on the back door, the one that led to our family home. Memories flooded in. The times I'd sneak out to the garden, hiding from the arguments I didn't understand. The nights I had stayed up crying alone in my room while Vanessa basked in attention. The times I had tried to tell my parents how much I needed them, only to be brushed aside. I felt a fire ignite inside me, a dangerous, almost desperate need to confront the truth. I had to see them,
had to understand, had to find out why my parents had allowed her to step into my place, why they had chosen her over me once again. I grabbed my coat and keys, ignoring the trembling in my hands. I hailed a cab, the city lights blurring as I sat frozen in my seat, memories colliding with anger, with heartbreak, with disbelief. By the time I reached their house, the laughter from inside was audible even before I reached the front porch. Glasses clinked, music swelled. And through the large bay window, I saw them, my parents and Vanessa, frozen in a tableau of happiness that was mine, that should have included me. I wanted to scream, to run in and claim my place, but fear and doubt rooted me to the spot. I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just neglect, it was intentional. Then, the unthinkable happened. The back door opened, and two small figures, my nieces, Sophie and Lila, stepped out, shivering in their pajamas. I froze. They looked at me, eyes wide and fearful. "Aunt Bella," Sophie whispered, her teeth chattering. "Mommy and Daddy, they forgot us." My heart nearly stopped. My sister had left them behind in the cold, just steps away from the house I had been denied entry to. I wanted to melt, to collapse, to scoop them up and promise the world. But the betrayal of the scene I had just witnessed clawed at me, my family celebrating without me, while children who were supposed to be loved and protected were abandoned. I opened the door, my voice trembling. "Come here, you two." They ran into my arms, shivering and frightened. As I wrapped them in my coat, the weight of my own childhood neglect mingled with this new raw injustice. I wanted to shake Vanessa, to demand explanations, but I knew I couldn't. Not yet. I had to process. I had to plan. This wasn't just a betrayal of me. This was a betrayal of innocence, of trust, of family. And now, as I stood there in the dim glow of the streetlight, holding two children who should have been safe, I realized something I hadn't admitted even to myself. I'd spent my whole life being invisible to my family, but this time, I would not be ignored. I would not be erased. I carried the girls to my apartment, wrapping them in blankets and hot cocoa, my mind racing with questions and silent vows. How could Vanessa leave them like that? How could my parents allow it? Was this cruelty or negligence or something darker? And more importantly, what would I do next?
That night, as the girl slept fitfully on my couch, I sat alone, scrolling through the social media posts Vanessa had uploaded. Every smiling comment, every congratulatory message felt like salt in a wound. But amidst the anger, I noticed something, a small detail in the photo that sent a chill down my spine. Vanessa was holding a small envelope, her expression slightly forced, almost guilty. I squinted, zooming in, and there it was, a name scribbled on the envelope that wasn't mine. And then the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Something had been hidden from me. Something about this anniversary, this party, and Vanessa's carefully constructed image wasn't right. I leaned back in my chair, heart hammering. I couldn't explain it yet. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but instinct screamed that the worst was not only possible, it was already happening. And for the first time in decades, I felt a dangerous spark of determination. I would uncover the truth no matter what it took, no matter how painful, no matter how humiliating, no matter how deep the betrayal ran. Because this time, Bella Hartman would not be invisible. I had never felt more awake than that night, sitting in my apartment with Sophie and Lila finally asleep, their soft breathing a fragile reminder of innocence left unprotected. The envelope Vanessa had been holding in that anniversary photo kept spinning in my mind, a puzzle I couldn't yet piece together. I knew I couldn't confront my family without understanding the history, the patterns, the whispered favoritism, the betrayals that had quietly threaded through our lives. I had to look back, to examine the foundation of our family dynamics, to understand how I had ended up being the invisible daughter. Growing up in suburban Chicago, our home looked perfect from the outside. White siding, a tidy lawn, the kind of place that appeared happy in holiday photos. But inside, the walls had ears, and the silence carried secrets. My parents, Margaret and Thomas Hartman, were loving in the ways that suited them. Margaret was the planner, the one who measured life in schedules and achievements. Thomas, my father, was quieter, more observant, but easily swayed by Vanessa's charm. And Vanessa, she had always known how to play the game. I remember sitting at the dinner table, my sister telling a joke she had overheard at school, my parents erupting with laughter, while I sat quietly, my own observations, thoughts, and stories ignored. I wanted to speak up, but I learned early that my words rarely mattered unless they were polished or served someone else's narrative. There were moments I tried to push back, small rebellions in a world that seemed rigged in Vanessa's favor. I remember my 12th birthday. I had saved my allowance for months to buy a small handmade gift for my mom. I had carefully wrapped it, my hands trembling with pride as I placed it in front of her. Margaret smiled politely, thanked me in a fleeting tone, and then turned to Vanessa's latest art project, a painting she had done for school. Margaret fawned over it for 10 full minutes, praising every brushstroke, while my gift sat on the counter, quietly ignored. That moment had planted a seed. Love in this house wasn't unconditional. It was selective, performative, and carefully measured. And the favoritism wasn't just emotional. My achievements, though real and earned, were often minimized. I had earned a scholarship to study psychology, a field I loved because it allowed me to explore human behavior, the very patterns I had lived with daily. But when I got the acceptance letter, Vanessa had jumped in front of my celebration, claiming her excitement for me as if it were hers. My parents had smiled politely, congratulating me in passing while praising Vanessa's thoughtfulness in organizing a small surprise for me. That was how it had always been. My victories were only important when filtered through her light. As I sat there thinking back to these moments, I realized the anniversary party wasn't just about exclusion. It was part of a larger pattern, a culmination of years where I had been systematically erased. And Vanessa, who had always appeared sweet, supportive, and innocent, was at the center of it. I wanted to hate her completely, but I also knew part of her charm came from sheer cunning. She had a way of twisting situations so that any anger directed at her seemed irrational. Any conflict would always end with me apologizing silently, swallowing my frustration while she basked in approval. That night, as I scrolled through old photos and texts, I found messages that made my stomach churn. Vanessa had been in constant communication with our parents about the anniversary for weeks. She had detailed the guest list, menu, decorations, and seating arrangements. And then there was the envelope. The small yellow envelope in her hands in that photo. I zoomed in again. My heart sunk when I saw my name scribbled faintly on the corner, partially erased. The envelope was addressed to me, yet I hadn't been handed it. Had Vanessa intercepted it? And if so, why? My mind raced with possibilities, each darker than the last. Was this an innocent oversight? Or had my sister gone to lengths to ensure I was excluded, even hiding what might have been mine? I thought about confronting my parents immediately, but something held me back, a nagging sense that the situation was bigger than it seemed. I needed context, I needed the truth, and I needed it without the distortion of defensiveness. I called my childhood friend, Daniel, the one person who had seen the Hartman family from the outside and had always known the tension between Vanessa and I. I need your honest opinion, I said, my voice tight with anxiety. Do you think Vanessa would go this far to deliberately exclude me? Daniel paused, the hesitation obvious even over the phone. Bella, you know her. She's not just competitive, she's strategic. She plans, she manipulates. And your parents, well, they've always let her get away with it. His words sent chills down my spine. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it clearly before. The subtle manipulations, the small betrayals, the constant comparisons, they weren't accidents or quirks. They were calculated, woven over years, designed to keep me in my place, overlooked, quiet, and predictable. And now, holding Sophie and Leela, I realized the stakes were higher. If Vanessa could manipulate our parents so easily, who was to say she wouldn't manipulate life itself to her advantage? My nieces were proof that she could leave consequences for others in her wake without remorse.
Determined to understand fully, I started digging. I reviewed past family events, old photographs, even birthday party videos. There it was again, the same pattern repeated over decades. At my 18th graduation party, my valedictory speech had been drowned out by Vanessa's impromptu performance on the piano. At my college graduation, she had posted online before I could even upload my own photos. And now, the anniversary. She was meticulous, precise, and almost always one step ahead. And my parents? They weren't malicious, they were blind, enamored by her charm and convinced that favoring her was harmless. But this wasn't just about favoritism anymore. This was a choice, a betrayal with consequences that reached into the lives of the innocent. I realized I had a decision to make: continue to be sidelined, swallowed by years of invisibility, or take a risk and confront the truth, regardless of the fallout. I was exhausted from being the quiet one, the peacekeeper, the overlooked daughter. I wanted to reclaim my life, my voice, and my family, but I needed strategy. I needed leverage. Then a message appeared in my inbox from an unfamiliar email address. It was a scanned photo of the yellow envelope, my name clearly written, and a note typed beneath: "You weren't supposed to see this yet. Vanessa wanted to surprise you, or maybe not. Decide carefully." My heart thudded. The handwriting on the envelope matched my sister's. The note was cryptic, threatening even. But the implication was clear. Something about this anniversary wasn't just a party. It was a scheme. A secret hidden in plain sight. And now the game had escalated. Sleep evaded me that night. I kept replaying the scenes, wondering what my parents knew, what Vanessa planned, and why this envelope, meant for me, had never reached my hands. I could feel the familiar sting of childhood powerlessness rising, but beneath it, a spark of determination, one that refused to be extinguished. I realized that understanding this betrayal meant understanding Vanessa, understanding my parents, and ultimately understanding myself. By dawn, I had made a plan. I would need to confront my sister carefully, extract the truth about the envelope, and, if necessary, prepare for the fallout with my parents. The betrayal was deeper than I had imagined, and I had to navigate it like walking a tightrope over a pit of sharp knives. Every step mattered, every word counted. And as I looked at Sophie and Lila, still sleeping peacefully, I knew one thing with clarity: I couldn't fail them, and I couldn't fail myself. The phone rang unexpectedly. I glanced at the screen. It was Vanessa. My stomach twisted. My mind raced. Was she calling to explain, to apologize, or was this another maneuver in a long history of manipulation? I hesitated, thumb hovering over the green button. One part of me wanted to answer, to demand answers. Another part of me wanted to record everything, to be ready for the lies I knew were coming. My pulse quickened as the call connected. "Bella." Vanessa's voice was light, almost sing-song, a voice I had heard for 32 years, but never fully trusted. I wanted to see how you were." Her words dripped with casual innocence, but I knew better. Beneath that sugary tone lay the same cunning I had seen in childhood, the same patterns that had dictated my life. My mind screamed, "Don't trust her, don't let her see fear." But my heart couldn't ignore the cracks in her voice, the hesitation beneath the surface. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "I hope you didn't sign the envelope yet."
That pause, that almost forgotten detail hit me harder than the exclusion ever had. The envelope, the anniversary, the photo. And Vanessa's cryptic words hinted at a secret so much bigger than I could imagine. Something in our family celebration wasn't just about favoritism. There was more at stake. Something I wasn't ready to uncover. And in that moment, I realized that the next move would not just reveal betrayal, it could shatter everything I thought I knew about my family.
The moment Vanessa said, "I hope you didn't find the envelope yet," the air in my apartment seemed to freeze. My mind raced, every childhood memory and present suspicion converging into a single, inescapable truth. This wasn't just about favoritism anymore. This was deliberate, calculated, and designed to hurt me, and possibly more. I gripped my phone tightly, my knuckles turning white, as I tried to steady my breath. Sophie stirred beside me, still half asleep, and I realized I had to hold it together, not just for myself, but for these innocent children who had been caught in the crossfire. I had spent my entire life being cautious, measuring my words, swallowing my emotions, and walking on eggshells around my sister. But Vanessa's call ignited something inside me, a resolve I hadn't felt in years. I had always wanted my parents' love, their recognition, their approval, but I realized now that some truths were too heavy for silence. Some betrayals demanded exposure, no matter the cost. The envelope had been the spark, but what it contained was the fuse that threatened to blow the family apart. I tore open my drawer, pulling out old letters, notes, and photographs I had meticulously kept over the years. Evidence of every slight, every manipulation, every moment I had been overlooked or erased. The anniversary envelope had been my first real clue that Vanessa's charm was more than personality. It was a weapon. I just didn't know how far she had wielded it yet. Hours passed as I examined everything, the patterns clearer than ever. Vanessa had been manipulating events for decades. Every birthday, every graduation, every family holiday, it was all curated for her, orchestrated to maintain her position as the perfect daughter, while I remained the quiet, invisible one. And now the anniversary party had confirmed it. My parents had not accidentally left me out. They had been subtly guided, influenced, even deceived by Vanessa. The evidence was mounting, the betrayal undeniable, and my heart felt both heavy and alive with rage. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to confront her. I dialed Vanessa's number again, this time refusing to let the fear of her manipulation hold me back. The line rang twice before she picked up, her voice casual, almost mocking. "Bella, you're calling a lot today. Everything okay?" I could hear the faint smirk in her tone. "Cut the act, Vanessa," I said sharply, my voice trembling with anger and fear all at once. "I know about the envelope. I saw the photo. Don't lie to me." There was a pause. I could almost hear her calculating, measuring, deciding how to respond. "Oh, that," she said finally, her tone smooth and deceptively calm. "You really think I'd hurt you? I was going to give it to you later. I just didn't want to ruin the surprise." Her words were syrupy, but they felt like knives in my chest. I wanted to scream, to tell her I had seen through every lie, every manipulation, every time she had stolen my moments and made them hers. "I've spent my whole life being invisible to you and Mom and Dad, and now you've left my nieces in the cold and played this game with me. Enough. Tell me the truth. What is in that envelope?" Silence stretched on the line, unbearable, until finally her voice softened, not with honesty, but with a calculated lure. "It's complicated. Some things are better left unseen, Bella. You wouldn't understand." The arrogance, the dismissiveness, it was everything I had feared, and yet beneath it I sensed a crack, a vulnerability that she hadn't intended to show. I pressed further, unwilling to let her hide behind words. "I need to know.
I said firmly. If you cared about me at all, if you even respect me, you'll tell me. Now. Another pause. Then finally, Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper, almost conspiratorial. Fine, but you have to promise me. You can't tell Mom and Dad yet. You're not ready for this. I felt my stomach twist. Tell me, I said, my voice barely containing the storm inside me. She hesitated, then spoke. The envelope, it's about Dad's will. And Mom, there are things you don't know about the family business, things that could ruin everything if handled wrong. That's why you weren't invited to the party, and that's why I kept the envelope. My heart stopped. Dad's will? Family business? Secrets that could destroy our family? The pieces began to fall into place. The subtle manipulations, the careful exclusion, the silent favoritism. It wasn't just about attention. Vanessa had been strategically placing herself at the center, controlling narratives, protecting her position, and keeping me out of everything that mattered most. The betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined, and it was personal. It was a deliberate effort to keep me powerless, unaware, invisible. I felt a rush of anger and grief unlike anything I had experienced. Every neglected birthday, every overlooked achievement, every time I had been brushed aside, it wasn't random. It had been preparation. And the anniversary party, it wasn't just a celebration. It was a showcase, a performance, a statement that I had been written out of the family's inner circle. I hung up the phone, my hands trembling. I had to process, to plan, to prepare for what was coming. Vanessa had just confirmed what I long suspected. She was dangerous in her own way, brilliant at manipulating people, and had been controlling the family's narrative for years. And now the envelope was mine to uncover, a key to a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face, but I had no choice.
The next morning, I decided to go back to the family home. I couldn't confront Vanessa blindly. I needed evidence, confirmation, and, if possible, some support. I knew I couldn't rely on my parents. They had been complicit, whether knowingly or not. The betrayal had layers, and every layer threatened to collapse the foundation of everything I thought I knew. As I approached the house, my heart pounded. I felt like a trespasser in my own life, walking into a home that had systematically erased me. I paused at the front door, remembering Sophie and Leela shivering in the cold the night before. My resolve hardened. I wouldn't be invisible again. Not now. Not ever. I stepped inside and immediately the tension was palpable. Vanessa was there, arranging something on the table. She looked up, feigned surprise, and smiled. "Bella, you're early." Her tone was light, but I could sense the calculation beneath it, the attempt to control the narrative even in my presence. I didn't respond. I had learned long ago that words without power were useless. I moved to the table and saw it, my envelope, sitting neatly among papers just as she had left it. My name was written clearly on the front. I picked it up, my fingers trembling, and felt the weight of years of neglect, manipulation, and betrayal. This small piece of paper carried decades of secrets, favoritism, and control. Vanessa's smile faltered slightly. "Bella, maybe we should sit down and talk." But I knew better than to trust her calm tone. There was danger behind it, a hidden motive, a web of lies she had spent years weaving. And as I opened the envelope, my eyes fell on the first page, and I froze. It wasn't just about the will. It wasn't just about business. It was a series of letters, contracts, and correspondence that revealed a betrayal I had never imagined. Vanessa had been secretly negotiating with outside parties, using family funds, manipulating inheritances, and planning moves that could destabilize everything my parents had built. And worse,
My parents had signed off, unknowingly or naively, trusting her charm, while I had been deliberately kept in the dark. I felt my chest tighten, a mix of rage, disbelief, and heartbreak. Vanessa had not just excluded me from a party, she had orchestrated a network of control, deception, and power that threatened the very foundation of my family. My hand shook as I realized the magnitude of what I had just uncovered. Vanessa stepped closer, her voice soft, almost coaxing. "Bella, I can explain everything. You have to trust me. If you go to Mom and Dad now, it could ruin everything." But I knew that her explanations were rarely honest. I had to confront her carefully, strategically, and ensure that this time the betrayal would not go unpunished. And as the weight of the envelope pressed against my chest, I understood the harsh truth. The family I had known, the parents I had loved, the sister I had trusted, they were all players in a game far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. And now, I was finally awake, finally aware, and finally ready to fight back. The envelope still trembled in my hands as I stared at Vanessa. For 32 years, I had carried a quiet burden, a lifetime of being overlooked, of being the invisible daughter. But this was beyond favoritism. This was manipulation, deceit, and betrayal at a level I had never imagined. And yet, as I looked at her, poised and controlled, I realized something. She had underestimated me. She had spent decades ensuring that my voice would be muted, that I would stay in my corner, too timid or too polite to challenge her. But I was no longer that girl. I wasn't invisible anymore. I drew a deep breath. "Vanessa, we need to talk. No more games." My voice was steady, even though my heart pounded like a drum in my chest. She smiled faintly, the practiced charm of a lifetime, but I saw the flicker of unease in her eyes. The envelope was my leverage, my key to truth, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me this time. "Bella, you don't understand," she began, her tone silky, but I cut her off. "I understand perfectly," I said, holding the envelope out like a shield. "I understand that you've been orchestrating this family, controlling my parents, and hiding truths from me for years. I understand that you left my nieces outside in the cold to make me feel powerless. And I understand that you've been manipulating inheritances and family assets behind everyone's backs. So don't even try." Vanessa's composure faltered, ever so slightly. She took a step back, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Bella, you don't understand," she said, her tone silky, but I cut her off. "I understand perfectly," I said, holding the envelope out like a shield. "I understand that you've been orchestrating this family, controlling my parents, and hiding truths from me for years. I understand that you left my nieces outside in the cold to make me feel powerless. And I understand that you've been manipulating inheritances and family assets behind everyone's backs. So don't even try." Vanessa's composure faltered, ever so slightly. She took a step back, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Bella, I was trying to protect everyone," she said. Her words were weak, almost desperate. "Protect?" I repeated, voice rising, shaking with emotion. "You call lying, scheming, and leaving children in the cold protection? You call erasing me from my own life protection? You've spent 32 years hiding behind charm while manipulating everyone around you. That isn't protection, Vanessa. That's control, pure and simple." She froze, and I saw it, the first real crack in her armor. For once, she didn't have a smooth explanation. For once, she couldn't charm or deflect her way out of it. And that was my victory. Because finally, I wasn't alone. I wasn't a powerless child swallowed by her shadow. I was standing in the center of my own life, demanding recognition, demanding truth. I want everything explained, I continued, my voice firmer now, more certain. The envelope, the anniversary party, the letters, the contracts, the business deals, every lie, every manipulation, every time you made me feel invisible. And I want it in front of mom and dad. No more secrets, no more games. Her face paled. Bella, you can't. You don't understand the consequences. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. And if our parents are truly who they claim to be, they'll listen. If not, I'll do it without them. But this ends today. The tension in the room was suffocating. I could feel years of resentment, betrayal, and hurt vibrating between us like electricity. And then, as if the universe had been waiting for this moment, my parents walked into the room. Margaret's eyes widened as she saw the envelope. Thomas looked confused, but there was a shadow of realization in his gaze. The truth was out, unavoidable.
Mom, Dad, I said, my voice softening but still firm. I need you to see this, all of it. The favoritism, the exclusion, the lies. Vanessa hasn't just erased me from a party. She's manipulated our family, our lives, and even our children's safety. And now, the evidence is here. My mother gasped, taking a step back. My father's face went pale. Vanessa opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. No excuses, no more lies. Explain. Start with the envelope. Vanessa hesitated, then exhaled. It was supposed to be a surprise, she began, voice shaking slightly. The envelope contained information about Dad's will, about the family business. I thought if I gave it to you too early, you'd panic, or worse, get involved before it was time. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I wanted to manage it, carefully. My parents looked at each other stunned, as the magnitude of the revelation settled in. Vanessa, my father said finally, his voice low, why didn't you just include Bella? Why hide this? I didn't think she'd understand. She's always been sensitive, fragile, Vanessa said, and the words hung in the air like daggers. My chest tightened. Sensitive? Fragile? After everything I had endured? After decades of being overlooked, minimized, dismissed as timid or quiet? Those words were the ultimate betrayal. I felt something inside me shift, a mixture of rage, grief, and clarity. I'm not fragile, Vanessa, I said, my voice calm but sharp. I'm capable, I'm strong, and I deserve respect, honesty, and a place in my own family. Not because I'm the golden child, not because I'm charming, not because I play along with your games, but because I'm a person, and I won't be treated as anything less ever again. My parents' eyes welled with tears. Bella, we didn't know, she whispered. We never realized. I know. And that's part of the problem. You were blind to the manipulation, but now you see. And I hope this is a lesson in paying attention, in listening, in valuing all of your children equally, not just the ones who make life easy or convenient. The room was silent for a long moment. Vanessa looked down, unable to meet my gaze. For the first time, I saw remorse. Not just fear of exposure, but a flicker of recognition that she truly hurt me, intentionally or not. And that recognition, as small as it was, gave me the courage to take the next step, setting boundaries. I love Sophie and Leela, and I will protect them. I will be present for them, and I will not allow them to experience the neglect I endured.
Vanessa, I'm done being silent. I'm done being invisible. If you want to be part of my life, it will be with honesty, respect, and boundaries. No more manipulation, no more dealings. Vanessa nodded slowly, defeated, and I saw the weight of truth settle on her shoulders. My parents, too, seemed humbled, aware finally of the impact of years of blindness, favoritism, and unexamined patterns. And as I looked around that room, I felt something I hadn't in decades: empowerment. I was no longer a passive observer of my own life. I was the center of it. I had confronted betrayal, demanded truth, and reclaimed my voice. The aftermath was not immediate perfection. There were tears, apologies, and difficult conversations that lasted for days. But for the first time, I felt healing begin. I sought therapy to process the years of neglect, to untangle the patterns of favoritism, and to learn to trust myself. I established boundaries with Vanessa, ensuring that she could no longer manipulate events or people to control me. I strengthened my relationship with my parents, helping them see the dangers of favoritism and the importance of acknowledging all their children.
Most importantly, I learned to trust my intuition, my voice, and my strengths. I realized that family can betray, manipulate, and disappoint. But we also have the power to reclaim our lives, establish boundaries, and demand a respect. I am Isabella Hartman, 32 years old, a survivor of neglect and betrayal, and I am finally free from invisibility. And as I watch Sophie and Lila laugh and play, safe and loved, I understand this truth more deeply than ever. Love without boundaries can harm as much as neglect, and courage is not the absence of fear. It is the act of standing up, even when you're terrified. Have you ever confronted betrayal in your own family or reclaimed your voice after years of being silenced? How did it feel? And what did you learn? Share your story in the comments below.